Hey, folks. Welcome to our monthly Backstage community meetup, and more specifically, the meeting for Backstage adopters. So what do we have for you this month? We have Jarek, who will be here from Box, sharing the story about their Backstage journey. We'll spend some time on the question which we received in the issue from Bisa Morano. I hope I don't botch the username. Basically, that person is wondering how people are driving the customer journey across Backstage. So we can spend some time on that. But first, we have Austin here from Spotify, who posted a blog a little over an hour ago. And the title of that blog post was "Coming Next Year from Spotify, Paid Plugins from Backstage." For Backstage. Basically, it comes down to Spotify going to start selling some new plugins we built for Backstage. And Austin is here to share some more about that.
Hi, everyone. I think I've met, just looking through the list, I think I've met many of you, but certainly not all of you. So thanks so much for joining the session today. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on the musings of what Spotify is working on, but I just wanted to be transparent that we did post the blog post today, sort of stating our goal of starting to sell some new plugins that we're building for Backstage. And really, I just wanted to underline sort of two things. One, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And then I'm happy to answer any immediate questions. I don't want to take a ton of this session to do it, so I'm happy to even book just another session. But this is really about adopters, so don't want to focus too much on us. The gist of what we're doing is we've built a ton of plugins internally over time, and we're building new ones all the time. And honestly, we want to make sure that our long-term commitment to the project is backed by some level of sustainability from a business model perspective. And so we want to commercialize just a few of those plugins over time to basically ensure that we can remain committed and continue to grow our commitment within the Backstage community, whether that's open source contributions or support in Discord or having sessions like this. So next year, we're going to share some of those, some of the plugins that we've built internally on a commercial basis with anybody who's interested in using them. And frankly, we really believe that not only will this help us make our investment sustainable, but it'll also help we hope, create this really, really vibrant, both free and paid plugin ecosystem. And so right now, obviously, many of you know there's quite a few plugins in and around Backstage, and more coming all the time. And we look at many successful and scaled open source projects, and they have people making careers and companies being born out of them. And we're really, really optimistic that a really thriving ecosystem of plugins can exist, both free and paid. And we want to help lay the groundwork for that. We want to, of course, launch some of our own and also enables others to do the same. So I just wanted to share, be transparent with the blog post that's out there that I'm happy to link to, or Tim already did. And I'm happy to take any questions there. There is, if you are interested in kind of what those plugins might be and where we're going with them, there is a wait list for those. And we are looking for a few lighthouse partners to help us basically launch this early next year and kind of test out everything we're doing and be with us kind of in these late stages of the development and really go-to-market process. So the call to action's there at the bottom of the blog post. I'm happy to take any questions folks have now. But like I said, if there are a bunch of them, I'm happy to do them in a separate session. So there's the high level kind of what and the why and the blog post there. If there are any questions from the group now, I'm happy to answer them. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Austin, for coming here and share more about that. I don't know if people already read the post. Or this is the first time hearing from it. So if there's any questions, feel free to hop on the microphone or put them in the chat.
Yeah, do you have some examples of the plugins that are coming first? Or at least an area in which
for sure.
plugins operate?
Yeah, totally. So the plugins in general are going to fall into kind of two buckets. And there's a little bit more detail on this in the post, but some of them are kind of what we joke is like tried and true. And so a lot of those are plugins that we've built and used for a long time within Spotify, largely focused around developer productivity and kind of this culture of making developers happy. So a lot of that is developer productivity. How do we measure that? How do we visualize it? Those kinds of things. So a big focus will be there. Some of the other things will be net new. So some of the things will be things that we're hearing from the community that are maybe huge investments for us to bring and test internally within Spotify and then also bring to the community. So the majority of them will be all tried and true. And those are things, really in that developer productivity space. And then there will be some net new things coming later on.
Okay, if there's not any more questions, feel free to reach out to Austin. If you have any questions on the website, backstage.spotify.com, people can also schedule, I think, a call with you. So feel free to reach out. And if you have any question popping up during this session, put them in the chat. We're happy to answer them. I think so.
Of course, and I'll drop my Discord handle in the chat, and anyone's welcome to ping me there, and we can either chat there or grab some time.
Oh, there's a question just dropping in. Is the waitlist for inquiring more information?
Yeah, totally. Even if you just want to hear a little bit more, kind of understand where we're going, we're happy to chat there, more directly, one-on-one. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more or potentially using them someday, definitely encourage you to just fill out the survey there for the waitlist. It's very short.
Good. That's how we like it. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us and telling more about that new initiative. Good. So next up we have Jarek, and I am always like looking at that adopters MD file we have, and at some point Bugs popped up. And I was like, oh, wow, Bugs, that's interesting. So I reached out to them and asked like, hey, can you maybe tell more about your adopters journey? And Jarek was so kind and enthusiastic to join us for today and share more about the journey they had adopting Backstage.
So hello, everybody. It's great to finally be here after a couple of months of development and lurking in the community. It's great to share some experiences with all of you. So hello from Bugs. My name is Jarek Łukov, and I work in the productivity department, productivity engineering team at Bugs, at a newly. It's the Warsaw office. New engineering site of Box was opened in January, and I started right away there. And the task for our team was to evaluate and start running a developer portal at Box. Our agenda for today is an intro, then a few words about our instance of Backstage. And I will take a deep dive into one of our differentiating, I may say something like this, differentiating features that we were working on for last couple of months, which is service onboarding. And also I will tell something about our future plans, what are our directions, and I also want to share that we started some community contributions. So the short story of our journey is that we started in January with a new team and a new office and a task to improve the communication between offices, because it was the start of a distributed engineering at Box, opening a second engineering site. We MVP'd recently in October, so I don't have, unfortunately, much to say about actual adoption, because we are still on on the beginning of our journey, but I will talk about some parts of the implementation. And the important information is that at Box there was already a service catalog software present, so it was not the main focus for us to like recreate it, because it was already there. And yeah, this is a screenshot of our instance to join the gallery of branded Backstage instances. So this is the basic catalog. This is the service page that we have, and yeah, we mostly used the already available plugins. So I just wanted to say that I'm very thankful for the product, for the project, and the ability to just start right away with some ready code and very easily start up your own service catalog, which is awesome for people that don't have something like this at their companies. And it also looks awesome. It's very user friendly. But I would like to focus on our use case, which is service onboarding. And if you think about creating a new piece of software in a company, you may think of a simple flow, like I need to create a source repo, I need to write some code, I need to implement my service, then I set up a CI/CD pipeline, I deploy it to some environment, and I'm done. Like this is completed. And for some bonus points, if you have advanced, let's say, maturity in your company, you can have the above points automated. So you can template your service out of some skeleton. You can have a template CI/CD pipeline. You can have it all created and started for you. So this is exactly what the scaffolder plugin does. And when we've seen this, we immediately thought that, okay, this is very nice. This is the perfect tool for increasing the developer productivity and developer velocity when you start a new project. But we could quickly realize that there is much more than just creating a Hello World skeleton service, because in a little bit scaled up company, you need to figure out how to provision your infrastructure, how to be compliant with your company policies. You need to get lots of approvals like budgets, security, the architecture team. You need to include your APIs in your you need to align your APIs with the rest of the APIs that are in your company. You need to make your service production ready, and this is about monitoring, alerting. You need to figure out how to get your networking working, firewalls, access control lists, and stuff like this. And if you use GitOps approach, then you need to make a couple of pull requests in different configuration repos in a good order, have them reviewed, merged in a good sequence, and stuff like this. And you also need to probably create lots of tickets for different teams. So how do we make it all work? Usually, there is hard way and easy way. The hard way is to make it all automated from ground up, but it's and there is the easy way where you can just let people figure it out on their own. So you write a knowledge base article, for example, with a guide, with bullet points, and describe the steps that are required to do something. And you assume that people in your company are just smart creatures, and they will figure it out on their own. If there is something wrong in your guide, they will probably Slack you, call you, email you, or they somehow will make the work done. But it can be frustrating, and it can take a lot of work and involve a lot of people to make this kind of onboarding complete. So what happens is that the easy way to do it, if you don't have enough good culture of automation, you drift towards more and more manual steps and manual processes, and more tickets in ticketing systems, and more support persons involved, and more people wasting time on communication, which is especially problematic in distributed teams. Okay, so what we can do to improve it, how to find a solution. We thought about three steps that can make it better. So first of all, you need to define your process. If it's just written on a Confluence page, or you just tell people to create a ticket and you will figure out the rest with the support person, you need to get the process defined. You need to tell which steps need to be ordered, which ones can be run in parallel, what are the data, what is the data that is required by the user, and what is the major data flow. So once you have this, you already could improve your process by identifying the useless parts of it or the complicated parts of this. But still, there is a problem that the definition of your service onboarding workflow doesn't need to match reality. Because if you have something written on a knowledge base page, it still can be like far from reality, and people can do it in a different way because it's convenient or because they know some shortcuts or something like this. So the second step is to make it orchestrated. It's let's not call it yet automated, but orchestrated. And this way, the manual steps are still manual steps, but you run them using some software. So your workflow definition is enforced by some kind of a workflow engine. But if you need some manual step, it is still there. So if you need to create a Jira ticket, the software will create the Jira ticket and then wait for the Jira ticket to be closed. And once you have this, you can start measuring your workflows. You can start measuring what are the major pain points, how to improve the developer productivity. And you can think about automating. The automating is the last point because it's the hardest part, and I cannot think about a situation when you come into a company and you just tell 15 teams that they need to work in a different way. So like you have, a quarter, and after this quarter, everything needs to be automated. This seems like very unlikely. So you can, with the first stage of orchestration, you can then go to automation, like incrementally, team by team, for example. Okay, so if we want to implement this, we need some kind of a higher order pipeline. So a pipeline to create pipelines, for example, Git repos, pipelines, infrastructure, getting approvals, getting firewall configurations and stuff like this. And it has some specific requirements that are different than your usual CI/CD server. And some of the requirements are that we are now dealing with a human-centric workflow, not exactly an automation workflow. So we need to take care of steps that will take hours, days, or even weeks. We need to be light on resources, because if we are waiting such long time, we cannot allocate resources for every process that is running. And it's good to have workflows defined as code so that we can work on them, collaborate on them, have them reviewed and deployed. And other things like, for example, secrets management, because this workflow will integrate a lot of systems inside the company. Testability as well, because we want to have good test coverage of this workflow. We don't want it to break if some of the integrated system changes, for example. Okay, so we evaluated lots of workflow engines for this purpose. Of course, we didn't deploy every one of them, but we selected a short list, then evaluated them closely, and we ended up with choosing the Prefect automation engine, which is a really nice tool. It's written in Python. The workflow language in which you write the workflows is also Python. And of course, because of this, it has full configuration as code support. And it has a nice local execution development, so you can run your workflow locally on your laptop and have it run in the same way as it will run finally on the server on a remote server, on an environment. And it has very good testability. You can use the standard Python tooling for unit testing, for integration testing. And it has also some nice features that helped us achieve idempotency when we rerun the same workflows with the same parameters. And okay, so how we envisioned integrating this with Backstage. We wanted to use Scaffolder as the entry point, but just run a Prefect workflow, start a Prefect workflow in the background, and let the user have the possibility to inspect the status of the workflow at any time. So the flow will be user fills the scaffolder form that we prepare. After the form is filled out, the workflow will start, and then the user will inspect the state of the workflow on his service page. And for this, what we had to write is first of all visualization of the workflows inside Backstage, and some custom widgets for the scaffolder form to improve the user experience. Also, scaffolder action that will trigger the prefect workflow, but this was a trivial API call. And we also made a service entity page widget that shows the flow status for the flows that are related to the current service that is being viewed by the user. Okay, so some of the custom widgets we prepared are auto generating data from another widget. So in this case, we convert free text service name to something that is compliant with, for example, DNS domains and Kubernetes namespace names. We have autocomplete from the catalog data. So, for example, there's an ability to choose an owner from the catalog, and we also have something like a multi-entry string array input, and others involve autofilling data from the GitHub API with authentication, and the custom date picker for picking some dates inside the form. Okay, so we filled out the form. The workflow has started. And what does the user see? This is how we came up with something like this as the orchestration for our service onboarding workflow. And this is how it looks like inside the prefect interface. It is, as you can see, very complicated. It's not a good user experience to have it like this. Of course, you can zoom in and out and pan the graph, but it looks like it's super hard to figure out what's going on during this workflow. So we implemented a simplified version of the flow inside Backstage. And we were able to reduce the graph and to remove the unnecessary, the non-important parts of the graph, reduce the graph and use the RiaFlow library for drawing the workflow. So it's easy for the user to just have a look through the flow and see where the repo gets created, where the environment gets created, where the infrastructure gets provisioned, where the configuration is merged, and what approvals are needed during the process. Okay, and there is also onboarding workflow tile on the service page. So here the user can see exactly what is the action point for his onboarding workflow. For example, we are waiting for Jira tickets to be closed. So out of those multiple stages, we exactly know which one is blocked right now and what we need to do in order to advance the workflow and to get to the next step. Okay, so this is, to be honest, this work is not very much groundbreaking in terms of the technology, but I just wanted to share the general idea of using Backstage as an automation hub for business processes. So this involves like integrating lots of teams that previously maybe didn't think about being automated, and the processes were just thought as non-technical, like I said, approvals, security approvals or compliance approvals, and now we have the ability to create a hub for tasks like this, and this can be, I think, something that can have a long-term impact on a company, and why we think that Backstage is a perfect place for doing stuff like this. So there is no good place right now, at least in our organization, that was no good place to put workflows that share so many aspects. And for example, the first intuition is to let's create another Jenkins job for doing this, but this is not this doesn't have the right user experience, because you need to explain somehow to the users that you need to find this job. You need to explain which parameters they need to put in, and this is just not the right experience. And Backstage combines the possibility to be a hub for automation like this, and the ability to create a perfect custom user experience. And also, while the teams see that it can be such a good improvement, they can come and try to do it like in a small scale, to create a workflow for on their own, and check out how it will improve their life and their work. Okay, so as I mentioned, we launched very recently. We got positive feedback from the people that used our automation, so that like they were super enthusiastic and said, okay, this was awesome, and what I would like you to do is to automate everything else. So this was just the beginning. I onboarded my service, but now I want you to automate this, and this, because it would make my life easier. So we are getting a lot of input like this, but we are still at the beginning of the work. And our next plan is to extend the homepage experience to make it a little bit more of a daily tool than a tool that you use once a year or once a quarter to onboard a new service, because this doesn't happen that often. We also would like to follow the Backstage as a platform approach, because we know that there is no possibility for a single team to manage all the automation on their own. And if we need to bring the owners of the processes to the developer portal for them to create and to improve and to maintain their workflows. And we already have some internal customers, so we are really excited to help them improve their ways of working. And we are also interested to take a deep dive into the upcoming Tech Insights plugin, because it would cover some of the other use cases that we need to complete. Okay, thank you for listening. It's really great to be here and to share the story. And these are our GitHub handles from our team members, so you can reach out. We already started some contributions to Backstage. We started with some easy tasks like documentation improvements and UI fixes, but one of our team members already got to the Roadie contributor newsletter by accident. So I hope we can make some bigger impact here and share our experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing more about this. So I can imagine that more people are using Prefect at their companies. Is there any way that you might be contributing some of the work you did for that in the future?
Yeah, sure. Of course, I cannot make any promises here, but the code we did is really simple, and it is also not by any way bound to Box. So it should be easy to share, at least. Maybe not to contribute as a production ready plugin, but to share. I think that the main benefit is not the code itself, because as I mentioned, it's really easy. So like the scaffolder action is just a single API call to start a Prefect workflow, but to share the approach of long-running human-centric business processes. And of course, even I think that people don't really need to run this exact workflow engine to benefit from this approach.
That visualization, though, that was really simplified. really great to see that. So you said we are expanding to use it as a more daily tool people go to. So what are you thinking about adding next?
We are thinking about the simplest tools, like for example the world clock that is already there available. It's just it's such a simple tool, but it is a simple thing that can bring people to use it, because it's so handy and it's so useful to see what is the time at the different offices of the company. But for main features, we are thinking about information aggregation, because right now we have information on each service page, and the homepage we think that can act as an aggregation page where you can see, for example, open pull requests for all your services, or open pull requests by all your teammates, and the same for Jira tickets and things like this. So we want to start simple and just create a user-focused, user-oriented aggregation on the homepage and see how it works.
Cool, thank you. We hope to welcome you at some point when you have anything cool to share again. So really good. Thank you for doing this. And that leads me also to you folks. If you have anything to share, your adopter story, something cool you did in your Backstage implementation, or some problems you might have encountered and you want to talk about that, please put it in the issue for the next community session, or maybe the one after that. But do feel free to do this, because these are really good stories to learn from each other. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is a question which was posted in the issues, and that was from Bisa Morano. I'm not sure if the person is here. The question is, how are people driving the customer journey across Backstage? And more specifically, one of the examples was, what do you do with your Backstage homepage? So let's take a moment and open the discussion up for people to share more about that.
Maybe I can just show very quickly the Backstage homepage. I don't think I can answer the total question, but I can show our homepage and share a few things around that. Here we go. So our Backstage homepage looks like this at the moment. And we did actually go through this discussion quite a lot, sort of, should it be a general orientation page, with search high up and lots of kind of quick links to frequently used tools and things like that, or should it be a experience for the engineer, what is going on in their particular world, and kind of surface those things very quickly and very high up. And we kind of toed and froed between those two for quite a while. And in the end, we opted for this kind of more orientation type page. So just to show you very quickly, we have that search at the top, and then a toolbox with various categories based on engineering discipline. Sorry, and then recently visited and favorites. So we've treated it like, if you're lost, go here, and you can kind of find what you're looking for. So that's what we opted for. So I just wanted to show that. And so in a way, that's a little bit about orientation and user journey. And I know also, by the way, I don't think Kat is here, but I do know that there are some alternative homepage templates that are brewing. I don't know the status of those actually, but so the particular shape that we have here, that's one template, and there are alternative shapes brewing, I think. Okay, that was what I was going to say.
Is that a scoop?
Yeah, maybe.
New templates are coming. Well, that's good news. I'm really curious to see how people get creative with that. We see some examples, coming by sometimes. It's really great to see that. I also like the box layout. By the way, was really good to see with the color scheme and everything. Philip wants to share something. Otherwise, I'll share it. So Philip says that for internal homepage, we have a panel titled "What's New?" to have the updates about recent changes. That's a good one as well, I think. Also, my colleague June points to the previous community session where this was also a topic, the adoption of Backstage. So that's also a good thing to rewatch. Like every community session, you can find them on YouTube. Okay. There was also a question about the plugins. Tim, I know you promised maybe to answer them in voice.
Yeah, I could chime in. Someone asked about our plans for an RBAC plugin and some more details about that. We don't have a lot to share, but it's going to be pretty standard role-based access control. So you'll have the ability to define roles and map Backstage users and groups to those roles, and then define permissions on those roles that people are able to do. So relates heavily to the authorization framework, PRFC. If you've seen that in the open source, this was sort of the underpinnings for RBAC or ABAC or any other authorization solution. So definitely take a look at that if you haven't seen it.
Okay, somebody else, anything to share on the adapter thing, or maybe on the commercial plugins? And there's also the link to the issue about the portals and the layouts in the chat.
On driving the adoption journey, I have one quick comment. I know some companies are doing like internal monthly meetups inside Backstage just to share some ideas and share journeys. So forming a community inside the company would also really help. Maybe try that.
Yeah, that's a great example there. Also, like having these hackathons internally, where you can work maybe on a plugin, creating that or implementing it. I know of a customer. I was joining their hackathon for a short chat with them, and they were also working, like, besides more company product focused things, also working on plugins for Backstage, which is also good. Also about having that one team managing everything versus teams having their own plugins and being autonomous there, managing it themselves, developing it themselves. That's also a good way to drive that, I think.
I can chime in with a question here. We are not adopters, but we are looking into Backstage as a sort of a POC. So my question would be, do you have any examples of very large organizations and companies that have actually successfully implemented Backstage at a company-wide scale? I think the example that's been shown here, Spotify, great. obviously happen over a period of years. Example from Box, obviously you have a problem to solve, you start from nothing and you get an MVP. But how would you, is there any example of large organizations that have a large estate of multiple thousands of applications and services in various cloud providers? And do you have an example of them actually starting the journey of adopting Backstage? What use cases do you think they specifically use it for? Is there anybody that actually even attempted to do it? Because from what you're saying here, it's great for a greenfield project, starting from scratch and addressing a problem. But in large organizations, I think it's quite a scary journey of starting with anything. Yet another product that can evolve to be a massive beast, unsupportable, and thousands of workflows that you can basically not upgrade. And that's one of the challenges I can see from trying to adopt Backstage in a large organization to solve, to automate and solve problems that obviously we currently have, with using GitLab pipelines or anything else that we have, Jenkins and everything else.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's numerous colleagues on the line here. Francesco.
Yeah,
can you?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Thank you, Susan. Nice to meet you, Goran. So what I can share you is, of course, I can discuss about the Spotify, but this is not the point. I can share something that I, discuss not on a daily basis, but 4 or 5 times per week in the past months. So with adopters like yourself. So what we usually suggest is to start small, but start strategic. Start small means partner with some or few teams and prove with them and for them the success of Backstage. This makes the challenge, of course, more feasible and reducing scope. And when I was mentioning start small and strategic means that if you choose a department, a team, or a set of teams that, of course, can be an example for other teams and departments of your company, organization, once they will get on board, it's even faster and better for the next steps, because it will be absolutely natural in our experience that once you show the value of adopting Backstage to again, a subset of your organization, and then you start showing, okay, this is the gain in time to market, this is the friction that we reduced, or at least the benefits. This is usually a very good and natural story to tell to the other people and to see the value in adopting Backstage. I hope I answered to your question, but if you want to discuss more on this, I would suggest to book a slot with some of us where we can dive deep in more details and share more details. But this is what at least I hear from a lot of people. And we can discuss also what's the best problem that you should tackle. For example, what's the biggest pain point that you have in your organization? But again, I don't want to talk too much here. That doesn't make sense, Goran.
Yes, it does, and that's actually exactly what we're trying to actually do in a small POC, at least, to understand the product better, to understand what use cases it can help us with. But obviously, in large organizations, the challenge is always going to be we are highly regulated. We have lots of things in place that we have to address. And also, any products of this size can become a big oil tanker that's very difficult to change once the adopter starts kicking off. And that's always the challenge, is that we want to give people autonomy, but we also understand the more development teams get onboarded, the more complex it becomes to actually maintain it. That's always the challenge. in large organizations with any of the product that's sort of globally adopted. But anyway, I think the good news for me is that you sort of your thinking and your suggestions are along the lines of what we've been thinking. And as I said, it's good to see that actually there is a successful community. I think that's very important to us as well. Lots of open source, which we really like to use anyway. So yeah, we'll give it a go. We'll let you know how we get on, and we obviously get back to you in case we need any further guidance and sort of help. But yeah, thanks very much for your advice. Thank
you. Well, thank you so much for asking this question, Goran, and sharing this with us. There's another question, which is there any examples of highly regulated industries with air-gapped environments?
I can take this one. One of the hardest things about my job is figuring out how to get companies to be public about their adoption, because it helps answer these questions. I can say there are two massive government agencies in the US, one in the UK that is using Backstage at scale. There's two top 5 banks in the US in various degrees of POCing Backstage. There are quite a few telcos using Backstage globally across the world. TELUS is perhaps one of the big ones that's very public about their adoption. So they've published a number of kind of case studies. They also did a community session demo, and they're quite regulated as a telco in Canada. But yes, many of the big government agencies are less willing to share, but there are a few who are using it at scale, and actually occasionally pop around these sessions. So I'll keep working on it, I'm not supposed to say who, but I can tell you that there are, and eventually I hope they will share. So apologies for being coy. It's not cool, but I just want to be honest that it is happening, and we'll do whatever we can once things are public.
The thing with highly regulated industries is that they are highly regulated industries with policies in place preventing this to be shared. But yeah, hopefully one day. Okay, so thank you very much, folks, for joining us for this community session. There will be one again next month. Please, as soon as the issue is up, please comment there. If you have anything to share or you have questions, you want to do a presentation about anything. Tomorrow, we have the contributors track at the same time. To subscribe to our newsletter, there was a question on the chat if the newsletters on backstage.io and backstage.spotify.com were the same. Yes, they are. So if you subscribe to both, I think you don't get it 2 times, but it might. So you get double great news in your newsletter. So yeah, thank you so much for being here and for asking all your questions and sharing your experiences. Do continue the discussions on Discord and on GitHub, and we hope to see you next time for the community session or tomorrow for the contributors track.